When Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping stepped onto the red carpet leading toward Beijing's Great Hall of the People, the choreography was precise, deliberate, and heavily symbolic. Putin turned slightly and addressed Xi. "My dear friend," he said. Xi responded without hesitation. "My old friend." Two phrases, carefully chosen, politically loaded. These are not casual exchanges between leaders. They are part of a long-running performance of alignment, one that both men have repeated for years across more than 40 meetings. A relationship publicly described in the language of trust, strategic cooperation, mutual respect, and enduring partnership. But in geopolitics, repetition is not proof of stability. It is often proof of necessity. In official statements, Moscow and Beijing consistently speak of strategic coordination, mutual trust, and shared interests. The language is uniform, almost rehearsed, and increasingly, it is designed for an external audience, because together, the two governments have also built a shared narrative of opposition, particularly toward the United States. They have criticized Washington's nuclear posture as destabilizing. They have condemned President Donald Trump's proposed Golden Dome missile defense system as a threat to strategic balance. But symbolism is only the surface. One day before the visit, Russian state media published a striking front page. Two images. One, Donald Trump descending the steps of Air Force One after a visit to China. The other, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping walking side by side. The message required no explanation. Russia and China, visually aligned, positioned as counterparts in a shifting global order. But geopolitics rarely respects imagery. It is not built on alignment. It is built on calculation. And beneath the carefully staged unity, friction remains visible. That friction begins with energy. Russia wants a deal. China does not appear in a hurry. At the center of this tension is a proposed mega project, the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, a route designed to carry Russian gas from western Siberia through Mongolia into northern China. For Moscow, this is more than infrastructure. It is economic survival, a replacement for lost European markets after sanctions and geopolitical rupture. Last year, both sides signed a memorandum of understanding, but memorandums are not contracts, and Beijing has not moved quickly. Price disagreements persist, but analysts point to something deeper: strategic caution. China is trying to avoid becoming overly dependent on Russian fossil fuels, particularly at a time when Moscow is under heavy Western sanctions. By midweek, the Kremlin claimed progress had been made, a general understanding on the outline of the project, but there was still no final agreement. And in diplomacy, absence speaks loudly. Russian officials were disappointed, but not surprised. Even Russian state media, in a rare moment of candor, admitted it openly. The two countries do not always share the same positions. Their interests do not always align. That admission appeared in the same publication that also displayed Putin and Xi as unified partners. Two narratives, one page, no attempt to reconcile the contradiction. Not long ago, Western political commentary used a different word to describe another Kremlin relationship: bromance. It referred to Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump during a brief period when Moscow and Washington explored the possibility of improved ties. At one point, following a summit in Alaska, Russian officials even suggested that a shared understanding had been reached on ending the war in Ukraine, on terms acceptable to Moscow. That understanding never translated into reality. The war continued, and the diplomatic window closed. A different, more unusual moment in the Putin-Xi relationship surfaced in Beijing during a walk through Tiananmen Square. The conversation drifted away from politics toward something else entirely: longevity, organ transplants, the possibility of extending human life far beyond current limits. According to interpreter translations, Putin suggested that continuous organ replacement could allow humans not only to live longer, but to remain biologically younger, perhaps approaching something close to immortality. Xi's interpreter responded with an equally speculative idea: forecasts that humans this century might live up to 150 years. Two leaders, both in their 70s, both having spent decades in power, neither showing any indication of preparing an exit. It was not an official policy discussion, but it revealed something more revealing than policy: mindset, a worldview in which time is not a constraint, but something to be extended. Putin's visit to China also marked the 25th anniversary of a bilateral cooperation framework that has evolved significantly over time. Today, both governments increasingly describe their relationship as having no limits. But that phrase raises a central question. What actually holds this relationship together? According to Alexander Gabuev of the Carnegie Russia-Eurasia Center, the answer is imbalance and control. In his assessment, Russia is increasingly positioned as the weaker party, economically and technologically dependent on China. In his words, Moscow is effectively operating within parameters shaped in Beijing. The data supports this asymmetry. China is Russia's largest trading partner. Russia, by contrast, accounts for only a small share of China's global trade. Chinese exports dominate the relationship. Russian exports are concentrated in raw materials and energy. And since the outbreak of war in Ukraine, the imbalance has deepened sharply. Western sanctions accelerated Russia's pivot eastward. Chinese firms filled the vacuum left by Western companies. In critical sectors like telecommunications, Chinese technology, particularly Huawei, became embedded in Russian infrastructure. In some supply chains, China now accounts for the overwhelming majority of imported components. Russia, in effect, has become structurally dependent. But dependence does not equal submission. Inside Moscow, this reality is acknowledged but resisted. Russian analysts and officials repeatedly emphasize sovereignty, warning against becoming a junior partner. The language is defensive, almost reflexive. Because beneath the cooperation lies an uncomfortable truth. Russia has limited alternatives. Yet China also faces constraints. Despite its leverage, Beijing does not apply direct pressure in the way Western alliances might expect. Instead, its strategy is often described by analysts as patience, not confrontation, not coercion, but controlled distance. China is aware that pushing too hard could destabilize a partner it still finds useful. That usefulness is not symbolic, it is strategic. Russia provides energy resources, military experience, geopolitical depth. In the context of global competition, particularly around Taiwan, Russian military knowledge and battlefield experience is studied closely by Chinese analysts, not as alliance support, but as data. Energy remains central. Russia's vast reserves of oil and gas remain strategically important to China's industrial economy. Discussions continue around major pipeline expansion, including the proposed Power of Siberia 2 project, which could eventually deliver tens of billions of cubic meters of gas annually. But even here, progress remains slow. Because neither side fully controls the tempo, what emerges is not an alliance, but a structured imbalance, flexible, tactical, opportunistic. Some former diplomats describe it as strategic elasticity rather than a binding commitment. There are no mutual defense guarantees, no automatic obligations, no formal alliance architecture. This is not NATO-style alignment. It is something looser, and in some ways more durable. Western interpretations often swing between extremes. Either this is seen as an emerging authoritarian bloc designed to challenge the West, or as a fragile partnership destined to fracture under pressure. Both interpretations miss the structural reality. Neither country has a viable alternative relationship of comparable scale, and both understand that. They share a long land border stretching over 4,000 kilometers. They complement each other economically, raw materials flowing one way, manufactured goods the other, and they share a strategic interest in resisting a global order dominated by the United States. On sensitive political issues, coordination is consistent. Neither side publicly criticizes the other on internal affairs. Whether it is Xinjiang, political repression, or cases involving opposition figures like Alexei Navalny, both governments avoid condemnation and often align positions in international institutions. At the United Nations, this coordination becomes visible in voting patterns and diplomatic language. Beyond governments, the human dimension tells a more complicated story. High-level bureaucratic ties are dense, and official exchanges are frequent, yet the two societies remain far from culturally integrated. Charles Parton, a former British diplomat in China, rejects the idea that Russians and Chinese share any natural cultural affinity. He frames it bluntly. Do Chinese citizens want to study in Moscow, live there, and buy property there? The answer is no. In his view, many Russians, if given the choice, would still prefer invest in the West, choosing Paris, London, or Cyprus long before Beijing. But other analysts describe a different trend. Alexander Gabuev argues that people-to-people connections are growing, not because of emotional closeness, but because geopolitical pressure leaves fewer alternatives. As Western sanctions bite and European visa regimes tighten, traditional pathways narrow. Movement eastward becomes a matter of practical necessity, not personal preference. Visa-free arrangements have expanded. Flight routes have increased. Payment systems are becoming more compatible. Chinese technology, vehicles, and digital platforms are steadily embedding themselves into Russian daily life. Educational exchanges and research links are also rising, not as a sign of cultural fusion, but as a functional response to a changing geopolitical landscape. Thanks for watching. For deeper context behind global events, don't forget to like and subscribe to US Mag.